A First Bible Storybook, read by Diane Louise Jordan. The Old Testament. God makes the world. In the very beginning, there was nothing but emptiness, darkness, and lots of water. Then God said the word, and the world was filled with light. He had made the first ever day. But he saw that darkness was good too, so he kept it and called it night. On the second day, God divided up the water. He kept some to be the sea. The rest he put up in the sky and made heaven to keep them apart. On the third day, God put the seas in their proper places and dry land appeared between them. He told the earth to start growing trees and grass and plants. On the fourth day, he made 2 big lights to hang in the sky, the sun by day and the moon by night, and all the stars that keep them company. On the 5th day, God made all the creatures that live in the water, fishes, whales, dolphins, and octopuses, and then he made all the birds that fly in the air, from the great eagle to the tiny wren. But the 6th day was the busiest of all. God made all the animals that live on the land, not just the big ones like the buffaloes and elephants and tigers, but everything, right down to the smallest beetle that creeps through the grass. And finally, he decided to make some people who would be like him, a man and a woman, to look after all the animals. God saw that the world he had made was good. On the 7th day, he rested. The first man and woman were Adam and Eve. God gave them a wonderful garden called Eden. He told them to eat fruit and plants and take care of every single living thing in the world. He told them that every person in the world would come from them and their children. But the first job God gave Adam and Eve was to name all the animals. Imagine how hard it would be to choose the right name for the camel, the giraffe, or the ostrich if you didn't know it already. God visited Adam and Eve in the garden and talked to them. He gave them only one rule. "See that tree over there in the middle of the garden," he said. "It is the tree of knowledge. You must never eat its fruit. If you do, you will die." Now there was a snake in the garden. It slithered up to Eve and hissed, "Why don't you pick that ripe fruit from the tree in the middle of the garden?" And Eve said, "God told us not to. If we do, we will die." "Nonsense," said the snake. "God just wants to keep the best fruit for himself." The fruit looked tasty, so Eve picked one and took a big, juicy bite. It was so good, she shared some with Adam. Straight away, they felt shy and ashamed and realized they had no clothes on. As soon as God realized they had eaten the forbidden fruit, a sadness as big as the whole world came over him. He gave Adam and Eve clothes and sent them out of the garden to raise their children and live without ever seeing Eden again. To make sure, he put an angel with a fiery sword to guard the gate. And all because they'd done the one thing he'd asked them not to do. Noah's Ark. Hundreds of years after Adam and Eve, the world had filled up with wicked people. This made God sad. he saw that there was only one good family left on the earth. They were Noah, his wife, and their 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. God said to Noah, "I am going to send a great flood to wash the earth clean. Everyone will be drowned, except you and your family. You must build a big boat. You will need space for a lot of food because there will be all the animals to feed." "Animals," said Noah. "Yes," said God. 2 of each sort, a male and female, including birds and creepy crawlies, and even snakes. God told Noah exactly how to build the boat, which was called an ark. All Noah's family had to help, his sons and their wives, because they were all going on the ark too. They painted the wooden ark with sticky tar to keep the water out. Noah's neighbours thought he was mad. "A boat?" they laughed. "Haven't you noticed there's no sea around here?" But Noah kept on building. As soon as the ark was ready, Noah took out his list of animals. His family had been rounding them up for weeks. How the neighbours stared! 2 by 2, the animals entered the ark. The bears lumbered, the reindeer pranced, the giraffe swayed, and the snakes slithered. The elephants were terribly slow. The lions padded behind. The parrots squawked, and the wolves howled. The swift cheetahs overtook the crawling crocodiles and leaping kangaroos. Soon, the ark was alive with animals. It was full of hay and oats, and food for the family too. The sky was getting very dark. "Hurry up!" cried Noah to the waddling penguins. As the tortoises crept up the gangplank, the first drops of rain began to fall. It was as if God had opened a window in heaven and poured water out. Rain cascaded from the sky, filling all the valleys. Thunder rumbled and lightning flashes cracked the sky in two. The people who had laughed at Noah tried to escape the rising floodwater, but only the ark was lifted safely to the top of the swirling water, rising higher than the mountain tops. For 40 days and 40 nights, rain drummed on the roof of the ark. Then, one morning, everything was quiet. The rain had stopped, and the sun was shining again. The ark drifted for months until it bumped into some rocks. Slowly, the flood waters sank down, and then Noah saw the ark had settled on the high mountain tops of Ararat. How the animals longed to get off, but Noah wanted to be sure it was safe. 3 times he sent a dove out from the ark. The first time the dove flew straight back. The second time it had an olive leaf in its beak. The third time the dove didn't come back at all. It had found somewhere green and fresh to live. So Noah lowered the gangplank and the animals bounded out of the ark. As the birds flew away, Noah saw a beautiful arch of colours glowing in the sky. It was the first rainbow. God promised that he would never again destroy life on earth. The rainbow would remind him of his promise. Abraham and his family. After the flood, Noah's family grew and grew. All the people on the earth were descended from Noah and his wife, and one of them became very special to God. The man's name was Abraham, and his wife was Sarah. One day God sent for Abraham and told him that if he went where God led him, he would become the father of a great new nation. Abraham was puzzled because he and Sarah had no children, but he did as God told him. Abraham gathered all his people together and with Sarah and his nephew Lot set out for Canaan. When they were nearly there, Lot and his people decided to turn to the east, and Abraham and Sarah went to the west. God spoke to Abraham again, telling him that all the land around him would belong to him and his family. He also said that Sarah would have a son. "Your family will be as many as there are stars in the sky," he said. Abraham was amazed. Surely Sarah was too old to have a child. Sarah was very surprised to have a baby at last. They called their son Isaac. But when Isaac was still a little boy, God decided to give Abraham a terrible test. He wanted to see how much Abraham loved him. God told him to take Isaac up a high mountain and kill him. Abraham was horrified, but he did not tell Sarah what God had said. He loaded a donkey and took Isaac with him, as if they were just going out for a picnic. Isaac carried the wood, and they set off to climb the mountain. When they had reached the top, Abraham built an altar and piled wood on top. Isaac thought his father was going to kill a lamb. "Father, where is the lamb?" asked Isaac. "God will provide a lamb," said Abraham. But he could hardly speak for tears. He set Isaac on the altar and took out his knife. The boy was terrified. Suddenly, an angel called out, "Stop! Now God knows how much you love him. You were ready to give him your only son." Looking up, Abraham saw a ram in the bushes, which he killed instead of Isaac. Abraham had passed the test. He hugged Isaac tightly, then took him back home. Joseph and his rainbow coat. When Isaac grew up, he married Rebekah, and they had twin sons, Esau and Jacob. Jacob, who was also called Israel, settled in Canaan and had a large family. His 12 sons were called Reuben, Simeon, then Levi and Judah, Issachar and Zebulun, Gad and Asher, Dan and Naphtali, then Joseph and Benjamin. Joseph and Benjamin were Jacob's favourite children, but he loved Joseph best of all. One day, Joseph told his brothers about a dream he had had. They were tying up corn in the fields when all the other brothers' bundles bowed down to Joseph's. Joseph's dream made his brothers really angry. "Who does he think he is?" they grumbled. Jacob had given Joseph a beautiful coat, coloured like the rainbow, and that made the brothers even more jealous. They hated Joseph so much that some of them wanted to harm him. So, one day, while they were working in the fields, they grabbed Joseph and tore his splendid coat off him. They decided to kill Joseph and throw his body into a pit. But Reuben disagreed and said, "Let's just leave him at the bottom of the pit." Reuben secretly meant to come back later and rescue Joseph. Later, while Reuben was busy, the other brothers sold Joseph to some merchants who were travelling to Egypt. Then the brothers smeared the rainbow coat with goat's blood and told Jacob his favourite son had been killed by a wild beast. When the merchants reached Egypt, they sold Joseph to the captain of Pharaoh's guard. Joseph worked hard, and after some years, he was made head of all the household. One day, Pharaoh had a nightmare which no one could explain. Joseph had strange dreams himself and was good at knowing what they meant. So the Pharaoh sent for him. In Pharaoh's dream, 7 fat cows came out of the river to graze. Then 7 thin cows followed the fat cows out of the water and gobbled them up. But the thin cows didn't get any fatter. Joseph told Pharaoh that the dream meant Egypt was going to have 7 years of good harvests, followed by 7 years of famine. Pharaoh was so impressed by Joseph's explanation, he put him in charge of building barns to store extra food for the bad years. And Pharaoh's dream came true, just as Joseph said. Years later, during the famine, 11 visitors came from Canaan to ask for food. They were Joseph's brothers. He knew who they were immediately, but they had no idea who this powerful Egyptian was. Joseph decided to test his brothers to see if they had changed. He gave them all the food they could carry, but in Benjamin's sack, he hid his special silver cup. The brothers set off for home, but they had not gone far when Joseph's guards rode after them and found the cup in Benjamin's sack. The brothers were arrested and brought to Joseph. He pretended to be angry. "The rest of you can go free," he said, "but the one who stole my cup shall stay and be my slave." The other brothers were horrified. Their father had already lost one of his favourite sons. It would break his heart if they went back without Benjamin. "Take one of us instead," they begged. Then Joseph knew they had really changed. He told them who he was and asked them to fetch Jacob so they could all live together in Egypt. Moses in the bulrushes. Jacob's family, the Israelites, grew very large. Long after Joseph and his brothers were dead, there were lots of them living in Egypt. The new Pharaoh did not like so many Israelites being in his country. First, he made them work as slaves. Then he ordered that all Israelite boy babies should be killed. So Israelite women gave birth in secret. One family decided to save their newborn son in an unusual way. Even the baby's big sister, Miriam, was in on the plot. They kept the baby hidden till he was 3 months old. By then he was sleeping less and it was harder to keep him a secret. So his mother wove a basket out of reeds and Miriam helped. They coated the basket with mud and tar and let it dry. It was like a tiny boat. The baby's mother put him in his little basket boat and carried him to the river. She put the basket gently in the water where it was half hidden by bulrushes and reeds. Pharaoh's daughter came down to the river to bathe, as she did at the same time every day. "What is that in the reeds?" she asked. "It looks like a basket." One of her servants brought the basket to her. "It's a baby!" exclaimed the princess. "It must be one of the Israelite children. I shall save him, and he shall be my son." All this time, Miriam had been hiding in the reeds, watching out for her baby brother. "Your Highness," she said, "I know an Israelite woman who will nurse the baby for you." "Good," said the princess. "The baby must have milk." The baby was looked after by his own mother until he was old enough to go to the palace and live with Pharaoh's family. The princess called the baby Moses, which means taken from the water. Daniel in the lion's den. The Israelites finally escaped from Egypt. But many years later, they were again made slaves, this time by the Babylonian kings. One of the Israelites who still trusted God was Daniel. Daniel was so honest and clever that the king Darius made him prime minister. All the other politicians were jealous. They made Darius pass a law saying no one should pray to anyone but the king. Anyone who did would be thrown into a pit with hungry lions. But Daniel went on praying to God the way he always had. Everyone could see him. Daniel prays to God, said the jealous politicians to Darius. He has broken your law. You must throw him to the lions. Darius was sad. He liked Daniel, but the law was the law. He ordered Daniel to be thrown into the lion's den. Next morning, the king went sadly to the lion's den, not daring to hope that Daniel had been saved. Daniel, has your God kept you safe from the lions? Here I am. God's angel stood between me and the lions. The king ordered Daniel to be taken out of the pit. He had the politicians thrown in instead, and the lions made short work of them, munching on their bones. And Darius ordered all his people to respect Daniel's God. Jonah and the Big Fish. God watched over his earth and saw that there were still bad things happening on it. He saw that the people of Nineveh were very wicked and violent. He asked an Israelite teacher called Jonah to talk to them. But Jonah didn't like that idea at all. He didn't want to go to Nineveh. He ran away from God and got onto a ship that was going to Tarshish in the other direction. God knew that Jonah was on the ship, and he sent a great storm. All the sailors were terrified. When Jonah realized what was happening, he told the sailors that the storm was his fault. "I tried to disobey God," he said. "You had better throw me over the side." The sailors didn't want to do it, but Jonah made them throw him into the water. Immediately, the wind dropped and the sea became calm. Jonah fell through the waves, sure that he was going to drown. All of a sudden, a huge fish came up and opened its jaws. Down and down and down, and round went Jonah, swirling and tumbling through the water into the dark, until he ended up inside the fish's belly. He fell on his knees and prayed to God, thanking him for saving him from the sea. After 3 days and nights, God thought Jonah had learned his lesson. He made the fish swim to the shore, and there it threw Jonah up onto the land. "Well," asked God, "now will you go to Nineveh?" So Jonah walked all the way to Nineveh. He warned all the people that God would destroy the city if they didn't stop doing bad things. Everyone, even the king, was sorry. They all promised to lead better lives in future. So God did not have to destroy the people after all. He was glad he could forgive them. Testament. The first Christmas. When Herod was king of Judea, there was a good, pure young woman living in the city of Nazareth in Galilee. Her name was Mary, and she was engaged to be married to a man named Joseph. One day, an angel came to Mary and told her she was going to have a baby. "But how?" asked Mary. "I am not married yet." "This baby will be special. He will be the Son of God." Mary did not understand, but she agreed to do what God wanted. After they were married, Joseph and Mary had to travel to Bethlehem. By then it was nearly time for Mary to have her baby. They searched everywhere for a place to stay, but the city was crowded. Every inn was full. But one innkeeper took pity on them when he saw how tired Mary was. "You can sleep in my stable," he said. So the Son of God was born in a stable where cows and donkeys were kept. Mary wrapped the baby Jesus in strips of cloth and put him to bed in a manger filled with fresh hay. On the hills, some shepherds were guarding their sheep. They were sitting together and dozing, when suddenly the sky was filled with light and an angel appeared. "Don't be afraid. There is great news. A baby has been born in a stable in Bethlehem who will save all the world." The shepherds were amazed. "A savior," they said, "in a stable?" They decided to go and see this wonderful sight for themselves. So they took their flocks and went down into Bethlehem, straight to the stable where the baby Jesus was. Later, they told everyone the amazing things they had seen and heard. Mary never forgot that night and thought about it often. Three wise men. When Jesus was born in Bethlehem, a new star appeared in the sky. Three wise men in the east saw the star and knew a great king had been born. The three wise men followed the star all the way to Jerusalem. They went straight to King Herod's palace and asked, "Where is the new king?" Herod was furious, but he pretended to be pleased. "He isn't here," he said, "but do tell me when you find him." Then the star led the three wise men from Jerusalem to Bethlehem and stood still over the stable. The three wise men went inside and worshipped the baby Jesus. They gave him presents of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. Later, God sent the wise men a dream that warned them not to see Herod again. So they went home a different way. Joseph had a dream too. In his dream, an angel came to him. "You are in danger. You must take Mary and Jesus and run away to Egypt." So Joseph and Mary took the baby Jesus and crept out of the stable in the middle of the night. They set off for Egypt, and no one knew where they had gone. Herod waited and waited, but the wise men did not return. He flew into a rage. He was king, not this baby. He ordered his soldiers to kill all the baby boys in Bethlehem, just as Pharaoh had done with the Israelite babies in Egypt in the time of Moses. Jesus had escaped just in time. But in the end, the wicked king died, and it was safe for Mary and Joseph to bring Jesus back from Egypt. Jesus is lost and found. Jesus grew up happily in Nazareth. Joseph was a carpenter and made furniture in his workshop. When he was bigger, Jesus helped in the workshop with Joseph. One day, when Jesus was 12 years old, Mary and Joseph took him to Jerusalem for the feast of the Passover. When the feast was over, Mary and Joseph set off on the long journey back to Nazareth. They had lots of friends and relations with them, so that almost a whole day passed before they realized that Jesus wasn't with them. He was lost. Frantic with worry, Mary and Joseph turned back towards Jerusalem. They searched for Jesus for 3 whole days. At last, they went sadly to the temple. And there he was. The boy was sitting with the oldest, wisest people, not just listening, but asking them questions. And they were asking Jesus questions too, just as if he was a wise old man. Mary and Joseph rushed forward. "What have you been doing? We have been worried sick about you. We thought you were lost." "You shouldn't have worried. I must do what my Father wants me to do." Mary and Joseph did not really understand Jesus. Most of the time, he was just an ordinary little boy. But Mary never forgot that he was special. 5,000 hungry people. When Jesus grew up, he left his family and traveled all over the country telling people about God. He chose some friends to join him. They were called his disciples. One day, Jesus was preaching in a deserted place far from any town. A huge crowd gathered to listen to him, and more people arrived throughout the day. By the evening, there were about 5,000 people there, and no one had anything left to eat. "It's time to send the people away," said the disciples. "They must find food." "Ask if anyone in the crowd has any food," said Jesus. After a long search, the disciples found a little boy who had just arrived with his picnic. They brought him to Jesus. "This is all we can find," they told him. Jesus blessed the food and told the disciples to hand it out. They looked into the basket and saw 2 small fishes and 5 barley loaves. It didn't really look like enough food for 5,000 people, but the disciples did as Jesus had asked. It was astonishing. By the time everyone had eaten as much as they wanted, there were not 1, not 2, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 baskets left over. Imagine how the little boy felt. Everyone began talking about who Jesus could be to make such miracles happen. Last Supper. Jesus kept on teaching people about God, and it made some powerful people angry. They began to plot against Jesus to see if they could get rid of him. Then, one Passover, Jesus went to Jerusalem with his disciples. Not everyone was pleased to see Jesus. Some of the disciples went ahead and found a room where they could eat the special Passover meal together. When everyone was at the supper table, Jesus blessed the bread and the wine. He gave them to the disciples, saying, "This is my body and blood, which is given for you. Remember me." Jesus knew that Judas, one of the 12 disciples, was going to betray him to those people who hated him. During the meal, Judas slipped quietly away from the table. Jesus knew he was going to be killed, so he went to pray in a garden nearby. He asked his disciples to pray with him, but they fell asleep. Later, Judas came and kissed Jesus. That was a sign for the soldiers who came forward to arrest Jesus. When the disciples saw the soldiers, they ran away. Jesus was taken to Pontius Pilate, the governor of Judea. "Are you the king of the Jews?" asked Pilate. "You say that I am," said Jesus. Pilate said, "This man has done nothing wrong. He should not die." But the people shouted, "Crucify him!" Pilate didn't want to be blamed for Jesus' death, but he had to agree with the people's choice. Jesus was led away to his death. The first Easter. The soldiers jammed a crown of thorns on Jesus' head and made him carry a wooden cross to a hill outside the city. They made a sign for the cross saying, "The King of the Jews." Then Jesus was nailed to the cross. 2 thieves were crucified beside him. Jesus' mother Mary and his disciple John stood at the foot of the cross. Jesus asked them to look after one another. In great pain, Jesus asked God to forgive the people who had plotted to kill him. Then the sky turned black and the ground trembled. Jesus gave a loud cry and died. One of the soldiers there, who saw all of this happen, said, "Truly, this man was the Son of God." Jesus' friends gently took his body down from the cross and laid it in a cave. Then they rolled a huge stone across the mouth of the cave. All the next day, which was Saturday, the Jews' holy day, Jesus' family and friends hid from the soldiers and cried because Jesus had died. On Sunday morning, they went to visit his tomb, but the stone had been rolled back, and Jesus' body was gone. Mary Magdalene, one of Jesus' closest friends, burst into tears at the thought that his body had been stolen. Then Mary saw a man that she thought was the gardener. But he said to her, "Mary," and she recognized Jesus' voice. Jesus had risen from the dead. The disciples saw Jesus too before he joined his Father in heaven. They told many people about Jesus and God's love. Christians believe that Jesus was sent to die and rise again to save the world. You have been listening to a First Bible Storybook. I'm Diane Louise Jordan. Thank you for listening.